I want to welcome you to the annual Mayor's Economic Forecast presented by the San Francisco Business Times and our co-presenting sponsors, Tri-County Bank and Kaiser Permanente, as well as the NorCal Carpenters Union. My name is Pete Casillas. I am the Bay Area Market President and the publisher of the San Francisco Business Times, and I want to wish you all a belated Happy New Year. It's great to be with so many of you in the room. I love the energy. It's great to see colleagues and friends, old and new, here this morning. This is our annual opportunity to bring together two great cities of Oakland and San Francisco. We love to alternate this event. We go 1 year San Francisco, 1 year in Oakland, so obviously you made it to the right spot this morning. But it's really encouraging to us to kick off, really get into our year with such a packed room. I do want to take a moment to acknowledge the many distinguished elected and appointed leaders that are with us this morning from both cities. I want to thank you for being here and thank you for your service. Let's give any of our elected and or appointed leaders a big round of applause. All right, while we're showing the love, I want to thank all the terrific waits and catering staff at the Oakland Marriott for taking care of us this morning. Appreciate you. We've produced this event through thick and thin, through good times and some not so good times. Every year, we hear our mayors' visions for their cities and for the region and how they are tackling the challenges of the day. These are especially challenging times for most big cities like San Francisco and Oakland. It's a tough job being mayor at any time, but at a time when the economic vitality of our cities and our downtowns remains fragile, when the social dynamics and demographics are shifting, when the budgetary and financial constraints are so pronounced, and housing our workforce is nothing short of a real dilemma, it is truly a hard job. I'd be remiss if I didn't acknowledge the challenges that we're facing in a sister city in Minneapolis right now. I certainly empathize with all the leadership in that city as they try to balance a very, very tough situation. It really underscores the role of local government and the need for partnership. Again, we are so grateful for the terrific leaders in our city, and that's what brings us here today. As we continue to navigate the reinvention of our cities, the ability to rebound and bring back a really vibrant urban core is critical. We truly believe that at the Business Times. And we are excited to cover what we see as a truly pivotal year for the region. It'll be very interesting. In fact, I like to jump ahead to next year's event and look back and take stock. And some predictions, I predict we will see solutions taking root. I predict that we will have witnessed new policies from these leaders advancing. And perhaps most importantly, I think we will see the further blossoming of really the green shoots of prosperity that are being driven by this business community in large part. It will take time to fully realize our next era of greatness here in the Bay Area, and a very different set of hurdles is in front of each one of these fine cities. But that reset is in motion, and it's exciting. Listen, there are many questions to be answered, but I would bet on these two cities in particular and this region any day of the week. I'm excited to lead the Business Times through the future as the region resets, reinvents, and innovates. And before I bring up our editor-in-chief, Jeremy Owens, he will lead a conversation with the mayors. We're also going to hear from our friend Ken Rosen, who's the chairman Fisher Center for Real Estate and Urban Economics at the Haas School of Business at UC Berkeley. And then we're also going to have a great presentation this morning as well from Jeff Bellisario, who's the Executive Director of the Bay Area Council's Economic Institute. But before we begin, please join me in thanking our so generous sponsors for helping bring this program to you this morning. I want to thank our co-presenting sponsors, the big trifecta of Kaiser Permanente. Thank you, Kaiser. Tri-Counties Bank. Tri-Counties Bank. And the NorCal Carpenters Union. And again, it takes a constellation of partners to make this happen. Our partner sponsors today are Sutter Health, Amazon, the fine counselors from Donahue Fitzgerald Attorneys. Thank you for being here. Let's thank the Build Group. And a big shout out to PG&E. Also want to thank our official airline sponsor. We have one of those, the Business Times. It is Alaska Airlines. And we have a whole host of terrific supporting sponsors that have gathered here today. Again, thank you Plant Construction, thank you SF International Airport, Tossie Bank, Bank of Marin, Electrical Industry Service Bureau, Newmark, Oakland Thrives, saw a table back there. The good people at UCSF are here. And we want to thank District Council 16, UPAT, the finishing trades. And again, you'll see the logos on screen of all of our terrific community partners: Bay Area Council, Oakland Metropolitan Chamber of Commerce, San Francisco Chamber of Commerce. Good morning, Rodney, saw you earlier. BOMA San Francisco, BOMA Oakland East Bay, Spur, Crew SF, and our friends at East Bay EDA. In fact, I want to make sure that you do not miss the East Bay Innovation Awards. That's coming up on Thursday, March 26th. There's postcards on your table with a QR code to learn more and to purchase tickets for what's going to be a great event, as always, the East Bay Innovation Awards. Okay, before you hear from two of our co-presenting sponsors, Tri-County Bank and Kaiser Permanente, please watch these videos from a few of our partner sponsors.
Build Group's heart is in San Francisco. As a privately owned, San Francisco-founded company, we continue to be chosen as the general contractor for the establishments we all know and love. We have been building and renovating much of San Francisco for almost 20 years, including the George, the historic Orpheum Theater, Hog Island Oyster Company, St. Vincent de Paul School, La Scuola International School, the Huntington Hotel renovation, Prescott Station, Duffwin Theater, and 17th and Broadway. We value our local relationships and are committed to continued investments and sponsorships in our great city. Visit us online at buildgc.com.
It's been a long road. And now, residential electricity rates are down 11% since 2024 and are expected to hold steady or go down again this year. At PG&E, we're building safer infrastructure, continuing to underground power lines, and saving money by working smarter. We're turning a corner with more stable rates for the families we serve. We'll keep working every day to deliver safer, more reliable energy at the lowest possible cost for our customers.
At Sutter, we're here, always. When something feels off, when the fever rises, or memory fades. No matter how routine, no matter how complex. With more doctors, from more specialties, and with medical advancements that help you not in the distant future, but right now. A whole team on your team, Sutter Health.
All right, thank you for your attention. Thanks for your patience. It's my pleasure to welcome up a friend and colleague, Mr. David Tucker, who is the Managing Director, California Public Affairs for Alaska Airlines, for a couple greetings.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, everyone. I want to begin by expressing my gratitude to the San Francisco Business Times for convening us today. This gathering gives us a rare opportunity to hear from distinguished elected officials, civic and business leaders, and hear from many others across the region, so that together we can discuss and address the pressing issues that impact many, if not all of us in this room. Thank you, Mayor Lee and Mayor Lurie, for taking the time to share your vision, priorities, challenges, and achievements. Your insights help to inform what we can anticipate in 2026 and beyond. To my Alaska Airlines loyalists and newcomers, Alaska Airlines has maintained a strong presence in the Bay Area since 1979 and remains committed to supporting both business and leisure travel to and from the region. In 2025, Alaska Airlines achieved several important milestones, strengthening our reputation for customer satisfaction and operational excellence. And many of you know we integrated with Hawaiian Airlines, and we have become a cornerstone of Alaska expansion strategy, because you know you can fly from here to Seattle and connect from Seattle to the rest of the world. We have Rome, we have Reykjavik, we have South Korea, we have Narita, and we're just enabling the airline to really increase and maintain our vital connections to Hawaii. Alaska leads all U.S. carriers in key performance categories during the Thanksgiving travel season, excelling in both on-time performance and completion rates. And Alaska Airlines continues to be a leader in sustainability, earning recognition from the Fast Company as one of the 144 brands that matter for its commitment to carbon-neutral operations. As the Bay Area thrives, so does Alaska Airlines. We are proud to help bring travelers to the region and offer exciting gateways to destinations both near and far. Thank you to the San Francisco Business Times for this opportunity. I wish everyone a wonderful morning.
All right, thank you, David. Thank you, Alaska Airlines. Please join me next in welcoming Anthony Quadro, who's the Managing Director, Tri-Counties Bank, private banking group, for just a couple remarks. Good morning.
Good morning, Oakland. As stated, I'm Anthony Quadro, Managing Director for the private banking group at Tri-Counties Bank. It's my pleasure to welcome you to the San Francisco Business Times Mayor's Economic Forecast. I'm honored to be among so many influential leaders who are shaping the future of our local economy. The Bay Area is a vital market for Tri-Counties Bank. Today we operate 14 locations across the region, including our newest office on West Portal Avenue in San Francisco. Our approach to banking is built on relationships, not a one-size-fits-all model. We take the time to understand each client's unique needs and deliver tailored solutions that help them succeed. We recently celebrated our 50th year in business as California's local bank. We proudly serve the entire state of California with small business, commercial, and personal banking services. Several members of our local team are here today. We'd love the opportunity to connect after the event. Let us show you a better way to bank where local decision-making, exceptional service, and forward-thinking financial solutions come together. Thank you.
Thank you. Good to see you. Again, thank you, Anthony, and thank you, Tri-Counties Bank. And now please welcome Dante Green, who's the Senior Vice President and Area Manager, East Bay for Kaiser Permanente.
Good morning. How's everybody doing? Welcome to the town. And thank you guys for coming. I'm excited and honored to be with you all here today. As previously mentioned, I serve as your Senior Vice President and Area Manager for Kaiser Permanente's East Bay market. And on behalf of Kaiser Permanente and my brother from another mother, Abhishek Dosi, who was recently appointed as our SVP for San Francisco. Abhishek, please stand up so people can see your beautiful mug. I try my best not to take pictures with this guy just to help my self-esteem. Kaiser Permanente has had the privilege of supporting the San Francisco Business Times in multiple ways, including sponsorship of this great event and other events throughout the year. So I just want to thank the San Francisco Business Times for your service to the Bay Area and for everything that you do for our citizens. We at KP actually celebrated 80 years of service last year with over 13 million members across the country. Our mission is to improve the health of the communities that we serve, and we do that by providing traditional and innovative healthcare services. But we also tackle obstacles that take place outside of healthcare services. Every 3 years, we conduct our community health needs assessment, and in the city of Oakland, we have a number of priorities that we focus on here related to public safety, housing, income and employment, mental and behavioral health, access to care, and we address these needs by local support of community-based organizations by providing sponsorships and encouraging volunteerism. For example, between 2020 and 2024, KP actually donated and contributed over $1 billion towards folks that struggle with access to care, particularly those that are marginalized. And so we continue to serve as an economic engine here in the city of Oakland as the largest employer. We partner very closely with the city of Oakland to work on public safety. We have very similar programs in the city of San Francisco. As we look back on this 80-year run, we now operate as one of the leading health systems in the country, with locations throughout California, Hawaii, the Northwest, Colorado, Georgia, the DMV, and we're growing. This is a remarkable feat if you consider the history of this organization, when it actually started right here in the East Bay on the Richmond shipyards during World War II. I bring up this history of KP moving from a time of great volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity, and becoming a world healthcare leader in this country because it's relevant for what we're experiencing here in the Bay Area. I think we can all agree that COVID did a number on the Bay. And we continue to reinvent ourselves to create a better tomorrow. As I look back on my healthcare career and this experience of returning back home to the Bay Area with an amazing opportunity to serve my community as a Bay Area native, born and raised in Vallejo, had family in Deep East Oakland, Hunters Point in San Francisco, I'm reminded of the privilege I had of living through Hurricane Katrina in New Orleans and helping the city of New Orleans recover. And as I reflect on that, there was a foundation in place that led to the recovery of New Orleans. And those things were community pride and strong leadership. Community pride is the collective sense of belonging and shared identity and mutual respect among members, rooted in shared appreciation for their culture, history, and achievements. Examples of like that in the Bay would be, our love for our local sports teams, our unwavering commitment to diversity, and our, sharing of the culinary arts and maybe even wine. Strong leadership is simply the ability to inspire and to align and get people to move towards, a common vision. And I actually saw this in firsthand under Mayor Mitch Landrieu's administration in New Orleans. And I see the same foundation existing today with our two outstanding mayors, the icon Mayor Lee, the trailblazing Mayor Lurie, both of which have a deep passion and commitment to this beautiful place we call home, the San Francisco Bay Area, both establishing a vision for a better tomorrow and fostering a trust along the way. They both have stepped up to the plate, taken over administration during a time of great volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity, similar to how our organization started with Kaiser Permanente. So I want to thank both Mayor Lee and Mayor Lurie for running towards the fire and leading us to a brighter future and a stronger tomorrow. But I do have an ask, going back to New Orleans. When Mayor Mitch Landrieu asked the community to step up, people stepped up, and they got on board. It was a wonderful opportunity to serve in such a time where everyone was looking for hope, and so I ask that you all do the same. When the mayors reach out, local administration, it's a wonderful opportunity to serve. It's a blessing to serve, and it's a wonderful opportunity to serve when you have the opportunity to help a whole region come back to life. You often hear Mayor Lee's administration refer to the term town business. And if you live in Oakland or you do business in Oakland, make town business your business. And you often hear Mayor Lurie say, let's go San Francisco. And that's an invitation to join this movement. So in closing, we at Kaiser Permanente are committed to the San Francisco Bay Area and providing total health to this community. And we ask that you join us and our partners in this mission. Thank you all for joining. God bless you all. God bless the San Francisco Bay Area. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Dante. That was a great message. And thank you to Kaiser for all that you do for the community. Okay, here we go. Let's get to the heart of it. Please now join me in welcoming Ken Rosen, Chairman of Fisher Center for Real Estate and Urban Economics at the Haas School of Business at UC Berkeley, who will present us with the real estate forecast and more for 2026. Let's welcome back Ken, everyone.
Well, thank you for having me again. The good news is that last year we were called the bottom. This year we're calling more recovery. But we have a lot of complications from what's going on in Washington. So I'm going to really talk about the macro this morning, and then we'll switch and hear more detail about the Bay Area. So as you know, we've had a lot of changes in macro policy with again, the election or re-election of the person in Washington. Most importantly, the tax law that we had in 2017 has now been renewed and expanded so that basically we have the same tax benefits we had. In addition, part of Social Security over time is not now taxed at least the first $50,000 tips as well. We've also expanded the property tax deduction, which was $10,000, is now $40,000. So all this is, I think, a good thing that we're doing. Most important thing to say is, though, there's a lot of deregulation going on. So M&A activity is expanding dramatically. The banking system, which was somewhat overregulated after what happened in 2008, 9, and 10, is now facing less severe regulation and allowing it to lend more money, and there's a lot more money available again. So that's all a big positive. The Fed has cut rates 3 times this year, September, October, and December, 75 basis points. So we're now at an interest rate that is about 175 basis points lower than we were 2 years ago. Again, that should help the recovery. The dollar has gotten weaker, and you would say, well, is that good? Well, it is good because it means that foreign investors can buy into the U.S. at a 5 to 10% discount where they were just a year ago. So that's, again, a big positive. But unfortunately, there are negatives out there. We all know them. And the ones that I'm most focused on, that we see a lot about on television now, is the what I would call the anti-immigrant policy of the administration. It's a big problem. And what we see in Minneapolis, thank heavens it hasn't happened here yet, but I'm afraid that this might be a trial run in Minneapolis, so we might see some of that happen. And it's just a mistake. We have 2.5 million relatively undocumented people in California. We need them in every aspect of our business, whether it's construction, agriculture, healthcare, and unfortunately, this administration doesn't see the benefit of international immigration. That has been our big strength of our country, and we hope that they might change policies, but it's not clear that will take place. Tariffs. We haven't had tariffs this high, with averaging about 15% on goods imported in the U.S. since the 1930s. And you know what happened with that. It's just a bad mistake, and it's going to create more inflation, make it harder to do business overseas, and also raise prices for people here. So that's another, what I would call negative. Also, the 270,000 federal government employees that have been fired or laid off or voluntarily laid off, again, is a big negative for the U.S. economy, much bigger for Washington, D.C. than any place else. But they're doing vital functions. So when you emasculate the CDC, all these different groups, not a good thing. The attack on the Fed, we have not seen anything like this before since the Fed was founded in 1914. I don't think he's going to be successful, but the fact is a Supreme Court decision is coming soon, whether he can fire Lisa Cook or not. He will appoint a new chairman of the Fed, and that will happen fairly soon. But the Fed is really critical that they're independent. Otherwise, the rest of the world's not going to give us their money. So we have a number of things that we have to look at, push back, and see what happens. Lastly, Universities and medical centers are seeing a big cutback in NIH and NSF, other programs. So we're all hurting, and none of you in the audience know that. So where are we today? Well, I think the good news is the economy is still generating jobs, but at a much slower pace. We added a little over 500,000 jobs nationwide the last year. And San Francisco, Oakland, and Silicon Valley are just barely positive. So much slower job creation. Yes, we have an AI boom, and that's adding jobs, but some of the same companies are laying off people in other areas. So our net job growth is essentially 0.1 positive, 0.1 negative year over year. So that is what I would call a big negative. We need more job growth, and we don't have it at the moment. The Fed is supporting activity, but my guess is they're almost done cutting rates, maybe 1 or 2 more cuts, but really not going to happen. In real estate, there's a lot more credit available, and the banking industry is very excited to make money in the real estate industry. The losses that were taken are still happening somewhat, but there's more money available, especially for product types like apartments, where supply and demand are in balance. Still hard to get money for office buildings, as we all know. What else can I say? That the AI boom, I'm not going to talk a lot about that. Jeff will talk more about it. But we are the center of it in the entire world. I'm not yet convinced it's like the internet, which was a big shift in everything. But a lot of the people are convinced. We're putting $1 trillion plus in new data centers and other electricity, other services. We'll see if that really is transformational. So what do we think is going to happen? So as you may know, if you come to the conferences over the years, I usually just tell you what's going to happen, and I'm right half the time. So this time I decided to give you 3 scenarios, because we really don't know, because the person in charge in Washington doesn't know. The base case is we continue to grow at a modest pace, with the big growth coming from the tech sector, but we still have a mixed economy. We add only 100,000 jobs a month. Remember, that would be a pickup from this past year. We added a little over 50,000 jobs a month, so 100,000 jobs a month, but still positive. Interest rates go down a little bit more on the short end, but the news that we have is we think the long bond, the 10-year bond, which determines mortgage rates and borrowings for companies, goes up to 4.5%. It's 4.21 as we now speak. So that's not much of a change. And the reason for all this is we think inflation is not dead. I know they say it in Washington, we've contained it, it's all good. Inflation is going to look bigger in 2026 than it did in 2025. Not a lot, but 3.5% means that the long bond is going to be really hard to go down, going to be hard for the Fed to cut rates. We do have the recession scenario there. It's 30% chance, so actually 20% chance, much lower than normal. But the problem here is, do we make mistakes? Do we actually take over Greenland and disrupt NATO? Do we actually have the Fed independence disrupted? Do we have other negative effects happen? And we're at the edge. Job growth is very weak, so it wouldn't take a lot to turn that into a negative scenario. There is a silver lining there for those in real estate. That 10-year bond would come down, and therefore mortgage rates would come down. So that would be a positive, and it really would help the sector. But less absorption, negative net absorption, after a really pretty good year this year, a positive absorption. The last scenario, small chance, but one that we worried about in April, is stagflation. That we get inflation, which causes interest rates not to go down, but actually go up, and we don't get job growth. That was talked a lot about last spring, but no, it's not really in people's vocabulary any longer. But the problem is economists aren't great at this. This is my favorite economic forecaster. We often don't see the cliff. You may remember I gave this speech here right before COVID, and I said that China had shut down January 24th. The speech was, I think, February 1st. Said it's coming here. Very high likelihood. Most other people didn't see that. not that I saw it especially, but we didn't get a lot of warning. In 2006 and 7, we had that boom in housing markets. Real estate markets went crazy, and people said, it's okay, it's all real, and of course, that happened. The same thing happened in 1989, 1990, before the dot-com crash. So we've had this happen a number of times in the past. So while I'd like to say I'm sure that we're going to get through this next year and get better than we have been, not certain at all. But I am fairly certain that now's a good time to look at real estate investments. And what does that mean? Well, if you remember, the best time to be a real estate investor in terms of return was the early 90s. We had the big distress at that time. I think we feel somewhat the same way today, that prices have adjusted downward, especially for office buildings. We've already passed the bottom there, but basically cap rates are 100 to 200 basis points higher. We have a lot less new construction in almost every product type except for data centers. So supply and demand will get a chance to get back in balance again. And so that's why we think it's a good time to be there. Leverage is barely positive and actually in some cases negative, but over time we'll get positive leverage again. So I think by 2027, 2028, we'll have supply and demand back in balance for most product types, and especially in the Bay Area. The issue, of course, is older office buildings. That's a more difficult situation. And just to show you the national numbers again, we've had a pretty good recovery. We've added about 6 million jobs since the bottom of the pandemic, and that's pretty decent. But if you look at the far right-hand side, bottom chart, the numbers have been weak recently. As remember, we had the government shutdown, so we didn't get some of the numbers. So the numbers have been a lot weaker. But when you have weak job growth, that means you have not as strong absorption. And that's important for every sector, whether it be apartments, office, retail. And I'm fortunate to say this is the year-over-year job growth. You can see San Francisco, Silicon Valley, and Oakland are near the bottom of the chart. We don't have the dynamic job growth, even though we do have it in some sectors. So without that dynamic job growth, how do you absorb the space? And that's our biggest issue, and I know we'll hear more from that from Jeff. The other component is we've been such big beneficiaries of the huge international immigration. We have 1.1 million people for the last decade came in legally each year, and then we had the amnesty program that we put in place during the first 3 years of the Biden administration. We had quite a few more people come in, but now we have negative net migration. That is net out migration. Some forcible, as we're seeing around the country. That's maybe 600,000 people, but also what I would call self-deportation. People do not want to get caught up in this framework, so they're leaving, going back to their home countries. We don't have an actual number on this, but we estimate this is the first time in a long time we've had this happen. And by the way, this is not a criminal environment. The administration is just not telling the truth. Here's the real data. 70% of the people who are here under the less documentation program are working hard, good citizens in every way, and we see some of the effects in Minneapolis and other places. Inflation has been the bugaboo and why the Fed has been so difficult to lower rates. Inflation is running 2.7, 2.8%. The Fed's target is 2%. But as I said before, we're going to be surprised inflation is going to pick up in 2026, barring a recession. And the reason is a number of things. One is, well, we have less workers at the low end, and therefore there's going to be more of a labor shortage. We have what I would call the reversal of housing deflation. We have rent growth happening again in the apartment market in the Bay Area, and it's starting to happen all around the country. We have health insurance costs going up. Again, the change in policy in Washington. I mean, a lot of people are going to face much higher health care insurance costs. And electricity costs are also soaring. So that combination of things means that very hard to see inflation going down to 2%. We have it going up. I think I'm one of the very few people who believe that, so take it with a grain of salt. But we do have a problem. that income growth at the low end, which is the red line, is much lower than the other parts of the population. The lower third of the population is feeling extreme pressure. We have rising credit card delinquencies, car loan delinquencies. So we have some of the population already in recession. If you're a recent college graduate, we have the highest unemployment rate that we've had since 2007. So there's a bifurcation in the market. And the top third who have stocks are doing great. The bottom third are not doing well. And people don't feel good. And we can see why watching the news. But consumer sentiment is about as low as it's been ever. So people do not feel good. And part of it is rising rents. Rents over the last 5 years are up 25%. And yet, not a lot last year, but before that, up quite a bit. Food prices are up dramatically as well. So many people are facing a squeeze at that lower end. And so the question is, can interest rate declines help this? So the long bond, as I said, is 4.21 today. It hit 5 about a year ago. The short rate has come down 175 basis points. So that will help. Lower borrowing costs help, and the Fed feels at the moment they're not really being restrictive any longer. And we have an upward sloping yield curve, which is, we have not been there for a while. And this beautiful chart here, you can't see it all, but this tells us what the Fed says they're going to do. Every quarter, they announce what their plans are going forward. And so they're talking about 25 to 50 basis points lower short rates over the next few years. But still, rates staying in the 3.25% to 3.5% range. So much of the stimulus that we have is already in the system. We don't think a lot more is coming. You may not know this, but the Fed has another program which has been expanding its balance sheet. Basically, we've gone from $1 trillion balance sheet to $9 trillion at the peak of COVID. We're down to $6.6 trillion. They've been recutting the balance sheet, which means making credit somewhat less available, but they've stopped doing that now. So again, I think we're having fairly stable and good credit market conditions. The big problem is we've made a mistake. As a country, we are one of the worst in the world. Debt as a share of GDP is running about 6.5%. Even the worst case in Europe is less than that. Average is about 3%. So we have a huge gap. And what that has done is push up real interest rates. Now, none of you know what a real interest rate is or don't think about it, but you get basically paid this rate, it's about 190 today, plus a CPI adjustment every year. They're called a TIPS bond. So the real interest rate is what constrains growth. And for the last decade and a half, we've had interest rates average 1%. Twice we were negative interest rates, real interest rates. So businesses don't think this way, but it actually affects activity dramatically. 2% is the long-run average. So that's where we are at the moment. So our forecast going forward, you can see these lines. We have in a recession, that long bond goes down to about 3%. If we get that stagflation, 5.5%, and you would say, well, that's not very different, but it's life or death in many cases for real estate market, others as well, because cap rates highly correlated with this. And the real problem, I think, is inflation is built into the world economy, not just our own. And it is due to a number of reasons. I think the most important one is the aging population. You probably don't think about that, but this is my 46th year doing this. I'm thinking about it. As we age, we have a lot less workers relative to retirees. It's happening here, happening dramatically in Europe, China, Japan. So this is inherently creating a labor shortage. Can robotics change that? Can AI change that, make it somewhat better? But we're inflationary going forward, all of the major economies in the world. We also have this whole policy of deglobalization. Tariffs, we haven't had like this in 100 years. So this is all inflationary. It gets get passed on to the consumer. Again, the present administration said, oh, the companies will eat it. Companies do not want to eat it. So there's no choice to see that happening. We also have a surge in defense spending all around the world. Shockingly big in the US, but also Europe, everywhere else. These aren't productive investments. We need that, but that's what's happening. And finally, the deficits. They're out of control. We had a chance to do something about it. I think the presidential candidate in 2028 will make a big deal of this, maybe. So we might be somewhat better off. So our view at the moment is recovery is happening. It's going to be slow, but that's the most likely scenario. In the Bay Area, we'll hear more about that from Jeff, is on that path as well. But it's not going to be the surge that we'd all like to see. So I'll now turn it over to Jeff, and thank you all for listening again.
Thank you, Ken. Ever informative. Now, please welcome Jeff Bellisario. He's the Executive Director of the Bay Area Council's Economic Institute, and he will give us a Bay Area financial forecast. Jeff, come on down.
All right, good morning. So we're going to the region now, and I'd like to do a poll here. Is anybody feeling good about the economy regionally, locally after that? Or just maybe before that? Nobody's feeling good. All right. Bad news is I'm not really going to help you here. So the mayors definitely will. We can guarantee this gets more positive, but let's take a look at how we're doing regionally. I'll focus in on San Francisco and Oakland where we can. So just a quick roadmap here. We're going to talk jobs, not a pretty picture there. We'll talk about population. We'll talk about housing markets. And then lastly, and I think maybe the only good thing of these four, right? Let's talk innovation, talk a little bit about AI, talk about tech, talk about kind of that backbone of our regional economy that makes things move. Okay, so before we get going, let's burn this into your mind. This is a forecast, but remember 2010 to 2019, right? We were the envy of the globe. You had places like San Francisco County growing 3 times faster than New York. You had Santa Clara County growing as fast as China, right? Alameda County growing much faster than Chicago and some of these big cities, right? So we had 10 years of massive growth. Okay. So that's the last positive slide you're going to see here. All right. So fast forward, again, we're looking back here. This is a forecast, but just so you know, we're feeling like where we've been. So you look back at the pandemic, we're still down. You see San Francisco and San Mateo together. This is payroll employment, down about 5% from the peak. That's about 60,000 jobs. You see the East Bay, Alameda, Contra Costa together, down about 2%. That's about 26,000 jobs. You can see San Francisco really impacted particularly by the tech recession, right? We had that big pullback a few years back. A lot of that's still going on. But now we're in this period, a lot of people are calling it the great shrinking, particularly of office jobs, where you're seeing things like automation take those jobs. You're potentially seeing competition from other places really picking up. And I think partially you're seeing a lot of companies that had overhired in that recovery now beginning to pull back, right? So this is the longer term picture back over 5 years. If we zoom in, so here's San Francisco, doesn't look great, right? You've got 26 of the last 36 months here are red in terms of payroll employment month over month. You've got the last, if you want to be positive, right? Look at those last 6 months, right? You're seeing more green in this slide. So you are beginning to see the tide turn in San Francisco, in San Mateo County. But if you look over that longer term picture, still a lot of jobs need to be recovered there. If you look at what we've lost in San Francisco, San Mateo County, a lot of it, if you look at the red at the bottom, right, this is the bread and butter of those places. It's office jobs, it's professional and business services, it's information, it's financial activities, right? So this is just the last year, the last 12 months, you continue to see pullback in those sectors. What is growing, and I think why there's more positivity as you think about San Francisco in particular, it's the service sector, right? You're beginning to see more people in offices, tourism has picked up, the general vibe around the city of San Francisco has improved. So leisure and hospitality, that's hotels, restaurants. Construction has even picked up a little bit in the city from a very low level. So we do see growth in certain sectors in San Francisco. But again, you know, as you think about that economy there, so much of it is driven by the office economy that you really need those bottom 3, right? You need those 3 to be coming back up and being more positive for the city of San Francisco to see employment growth. Okay, so as I turn to the East Bay here, this chart looks a little bit better, right? Last 36 months, not all red, mostly red though, right? Not that great, but again, the last 3 months, you see green, so there's some positivity. Again, payroll employment month over month here. The story here, and you saw it in that first chart, not quite as negative as the city of San Francisco, but still in that slow kind of downward to no growth trend that Ken showed in some of his slides as well. So zoom in now in the East Bay, more red in this chart, right? We see that growth and actually larger job decline in these two counties compared to San Francisco, San Mateo in the last 12 months. But you do have this massive growth in healthcare in particular, right? Ken talked about the aging population. You know, we've really put a lot of resources into healthcare, particularly in the East Bay. And that's a sector that continues to grow. But you come toward the bottom, right? Manufacturing is down in big numbers in the East Bay. That's you know, when you think about the East Bay economy here, that's a key sector. A lot of that is the pullback in biotech, but it's also just a pullback in jobs overall, right? You're seeing automation take some of these jobs. You're seeing companies really just kind of hunker down for what could be a recession or stagflation or just the uncertainty. So again, the job situation, the payroll situation, not great as we look across our region. But it's not great basically everywhere, right? So this is the office economy in particular. So, you know, this is the last 12 months of job growth in information, finance, and professional services. San Francisco is at the bottom, San Jose near the bottom. The only place that's growing is Miami, right? So Miami is really, like, it used to be Austin was the only place that's growing. Now Miami seems to have this lead. But the point being here is that the office economy is just weak today, right? And I think the big questions that we have going forward is what drives that office economy forward, right, if we're not necessarily adding jobs or adding large number of jobs there. I'm going to skip this, actually. This is worn data. I'm not going to skip it, right? We're going to go through it, right? It's all too negative here. So these are firings, right? These are layoffs from companies that are large layoffs in large companies, right? And you can see the green bar here still elevated. So the green is the Bay Area, the gray is Los Angeles in terms of WARN filings. So if you want to be positive, right, we're down here, right? We're down from the peak in terms of layoffs, but we're still elevated, right? So these are, again, large layoffs in large companies. So I think still concerned about the layoff trajectory going forward. The one piece of positivity here is that BART is up, right? Our downtowns are coming back. Return to office is happening, right? So I think there's still some runway as we think about people returning to work. You can see that definitely in Caltrain, you can see it in Oakland, you can see it in downtown San Francisco. Whew, okay, that was all bad, right? All right, it's gonna get a little bit better. All right, population, so the population numbers are flat. This is region-wide over 9 counties, right? We're pretty flat. You can see where we were back in 2019. You know, we're still down, 20,000 people in Alameda County, 30,000 people in San Francisco, but we're starting to see some more positivity here. You've got numbers that are now positive, right? So Alameda here in blue, San Francisco is in the green. The last couple of years, you're starting to see positive population growth. It's still very, very small. We still haven't recovered all of our people, but again, you're beginning to see people coming back into the downtowns, moving into these urban areas and suburban areas across Alameda and San Francisco counties. Okay, so Ken talked immigration. I'm going to focus here on the gold, though. So this is 9 county-wide, region-wide. Net domestic migration continues to be very negative. That's the gold bars here. This is people moving out state to state. The green here is the natural increase, which I don't want to focus on, but is very concerning if you look just at births and deaths coming way down in our region. And then you look at the foreign migration numbers, and that to me is the key, right? That's been driving population growth historically for us. Right? We've had these big out-migration pieces in the gold there, but we've almost always made it up naturally and with immigration. If natural increases continue to shrink and immigration shrinks, it's very tough to chart that path toward population growth in our region. And again, just to point out, and Ken made this point, right? And this is our region. The green is what we've done year over year, and the red is what we would have done without immigration, right? So this is high-skilled immigrants, but this is also people coming here at lower and middle ends of the income spectrum for opportunity. We would be losing population for the last 6 years without immigrants here, right? So as you think about the federal landscape, immigration is just so key here to our growth that we really need to ensure that we're able to welcome people in at all levels here. Okay. So housing, it's going to get a little better, I promise. Like we'll get to the end, and it'll feel better to you. The housing situation, right? For down jobs, population is not really growing. Housing prices should be coming down. No, not so fast, Jeff, right? So rental markets, and this is part of the reason we have some positivity, right? Just in the last couple months, you're seeing rents come way up for apartments, right? So the San Francisco metro, which includes Oakland, and San Jose are the top 2 markets for rental appreciation in the last 12 months. The city of San Francisco up 12%, Oakland up 3%. So part of this is that it's just a tight market, and when we have a few more people coming back, or we have people with more money coming into these markets, those markets do go up. But again, some positivity here as we think about population. Look at the home market here, right? You see this in San Francisco in particular. Home prices up in the last couple of months. Still not where they were in 2022 in San Francisco or in Alameda or in Contra Costa County, but you're beginning to see some positivity in these markets. And I think the key here, and I think this is the message as we think about the region, it's likely that San Francisco is going to come first in this recovery whenever it does happen, right? Oakland and the East Bay is going to be a little bit behind. That's just kind of how these markets go, right? Oakland acts as a bit of an outlet for San Francisco's growth. So this chart to me makes sense. You begin to see San Francisco move on the housing front. I think in this next year, you'll see Alameda, Contra Costa County coming back in the housing market as well. One of the reasons why we can kind of forecast this price appreciation is that we're not really building anything. And I think this is a key piece as we look forward for the housing market and a lot of the policies that the state has put forward just in the last year. Our region is building on a per capita basis, effectively nothing, right? These are housing permits. You look at San Francisco's the lowest here, which includes Oakland as well. In the city, the San Francisco metro is permitting basically the same number of multifamily units per year as Detroit, right? And no one's thinking of Detroit as this massively growing, innovative place, right? But this, to me, again, if it's the question of like what comes first, is it the job, is it the person, is it the housing unit, right? I think this really has to be the piece that changes for our region to really get back onto that growth trajectory. And again, statewide, right? If we look at the state, so this is state permits, and you can see that very little is being permitted, even at the top of the cycle, in terms of new housing units in the state of California. But we've seen this massive shift in Sacramento, right? Thinking about new ways that cities are thinking about their zoning. You see San Francisco doing a family zoning plan and upzoning. Really, again, we've got to find a way to get the housing market juiced. A lot of that's going to be dependent on interest rates, but I think on the policy side, we're beginning to pull levers in our cities and in Sacramento to ensure that new housing units can be built. All right, everybody okay? All right, just want to make sure. Okay, so this to me though, right, as you think about the future of the region, you can't really talk about it without thinking AI, tech, automation. And the bad news here is that I really have no idea. Ken Rosen says he's not sure. I'm not sure either. I'm going to be a bit more positive on AI going forward. But I think there's this huge question of, is AI a job creator or job destroyer? And I think the jury's still very much out in that regard. But we know there's just massive amounts of capital coming to our region, particularly for AI. So this is venture capital funding. You can see that in the Bay Area, we're getting about 60% of all US venture capital is invested in this region, which makes no sense, right? There's no way we have all of the good ideas, but the venture capitalists say we do, right? And a lot of this is driven by big deals, right? But it is still massive amounts of money coming into these companies and into this industry and sector in particular. And then you look at that and you talk about new company formation. So we're calling these pentacorns. These are $5 billion companies. They used to be called unicorns when they were $1 billion, but we've had inflation, so we've had inflation here too. So there are 96 of these $5 billion private companies in the IPO pipeline. 56 are in the Bay Area. Most of that is in the city of San Francisco. We do have one in the East Bay, but thinking about the future IPO pipeline and the future growth of companies, don't bet against, you can't bet against this place. It's all still happening here, right? And these 56, I couldn't even name most of them. You've never heard of most of them, but they're worth $5 billion. They're headquartered here. They're employing people. They're taking office space. They're going to be that next wave of innovation for our region. And let's not forget this chart. So stock market is up again today. Last I checked, the stock market is going to go up in perpetuity as far as I can tell, which, if you don't work for one of these companies, which I don't, and I'm sure many of you don't, right? These companies are massive. They employ many, many people. Not everyone works in the tech economy, but as these companies grow and as they employ more people, there are those multiplier effects, right? There are people in the service sector. There are people in engineering firms and law firms and construction firms and janitorial firms, right? So it still, again, is very much all happening here, right? This is the market cap value of these companies. They continue to grow. Next time we do this, these bubbles will be off the chart. But again, it's very much here, right? You've seen Silicon Valley's dead. You've seen San Francisco is dead. There's no way it can be dead when we still have all of those companies and all of that potential growth out there. Okay, so the forecast. Well, we've only looked backwards, right? And you're like, Jeff, what the heck is this? It's not a forecast. So as we look ahead, there's a vibe shift, and the mayor's going to talk about this. Crime is way down in our cities, in Oakland and San Francisco. Homelessness is beginning to be stop there, yeah. And I should have the chart on that, right? You want positive charts. That is the most positive chart. So it's not an economic rebound. It's not that jobs rebound that we're all feeling, but I think people were so sick and tired of feeling bad for 5 years there that now we're beginning to feel like this place is coming back, whether it's Oakland or San Francisco. So that's one. Vibes are good, which is not an economic term, but we're gonna run with it. The second piece, though, the growth model, I think, has shifted. For a very long time, we were in this mode of venture capital dollars come in, risk capital comes in, company hires people, company takes space, company continues to grow and takes up more and more space. I showed you all those venture capital dollars that we have. They're not really equating to those jobs numbers that we saw earlier. So now we have billions of dollars coming to the region. It's going into data centers and large language models and training those models, and it's going into fewer people, right? So I think the fundamental way that the region has grown, at least the core tech part of our region has grown, I think has changed and may have changed for good, right? So we're in a lower employment volatility space right now, right? You're unlikely to see any massive growth, but you're also likely to see not any massive declines, right, as these new companies hire more conservatively. 3, we talked about this, capital's back, people are not. And I think that's a key question. I don't have the answer to this. Like, can we grow the economy with a stagnant population? I think the answer is no. We need people to take those jobs. AI is not going to, produce the golden goose for us here. GDP will grow, but GDP is not paying your bills. It's not paying your mortgage, right? So I still think we need people to grow, and the people are not coming back, at least to date. 4, AI is still very early on, right? We've got this situation here where we're making the chips. We've got the companies with the large language models, but there's a whole set of applications on top of that, new companies to be built on top of that. You think about how Uber and Lyft, we had a mobile phone, right? Uber and Lyft had that cellular platform. Think about AI, think about automation as a platform for new company formation. That is so early on, right? And I think that's where the job growth will come. Like today, I think it's pretty clear AI has been a job destroyer, at least in this early period. But I think the potential gains, and potentially here in Oakland and San Francisco for those office jobs are large. So in the outlook, and very similar to Ken, right? I mean, I'm pretty optimistic, partially because those first slides can't really get much worse, right? And I think we've been doing recession here for a few years, right? And I think now our companies have hunkered down. They've reached some equilibrium. I think you'll begin to see some employment growth. You've seen it in the last 3 or 4 months. You're seeing more companies take space in San Francisco. Eventually that will trickle to Oakland, right? It's all a matter of time. But I do think there's a reason to be cautiously optimistic, right? Ken gave you all those macro factors. We're going to discard that altogether, right? Wherever the nation goes, the Bay Area is likely to follow, but I think the Bay Area does a little bit better, right? I think that first chart flips, where the Bay Area begins to grow more quickly than the US. So let me just leave you with one final thought here, right? Trying to be positive with the final thought. This is a very volatile place. You look back in time, this is payroll employment. The Bay Area, the 9 counties is green, the US is yellow. When we grow much faster than the US. When the global economy, the US economy comes down, we come down in big ways. And right now we're in this lull period, right? We're in this period where our growth has been slow. It's unclear when that next wave comes or where it comes from. But if you look back into that 2006 period, we had this massive wave of new company formation that became the next 10 years of employment growth. I think we're in that same type of place today, right, where we're beginning to grow many of these new companies. The applications built on top of that don't even exist yet, and you're going to see, it might not be this year, it might not be next year, but you're going to see the Bay Area, San Francisco, you're going to see Oakland come back in a big way, right? So I think it's all a matter of time. We're going to talk policy with the mayors, right? But I think, from a Bay Area Council perspective, we're trying to figure out what can be done policy-wise, marketing-wise, to move our growth trajectory up in a bigger way. So with that, the first 20 slides were bad, but the last one was good. So let me turn it back. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Jeff, and thank you, Ken. Hey, at the Business Times, we don't do alternative facts. We'll take it straight. Although the #1 top requested item on our comment cards is a Bloody Mary bar for next year's breakfast meeting, but we can work on that for sure. Without further ado, I would like to introduce the San Francisco Business Times editor-in-chief, Mr. Jeremy Owens, who will be leading a conversation with Mayor Daniel Lurie and Mayor Barbara Lee. Jeremy, come on up and take it away.
Whatever you want. Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Pete, and thank you for everybody for being here. Before we get started, I do want to say, just to be honest, it's very hard to focus on an economic discussion this weekend, seeing yet another innocent American shot on the streets of Minneapolis. So before we get started, thank you. I want to take a moment of silence for Alex Preddy and Renee Good, if you'll please. Thank you very much. We obviously do need to discuss this, and Mayor Lee, I'll start with you. It's your first time with us. Thank you so much for being here. You spent decades in the House of Representatives, which voted last week to fund the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Division with $10 billion. President Trump has also openly threatened Oakland with the type of thing we're seeing in Minneapolis right now. As a nation and as Oakland, what can we do to fight this and prepare for what might be coming?
Sure. Thank you very much. Nice being with you, and good morning. Well, yes, I spent 27 years in Washington, D.C. as a member of Congress, and 4 of those years was during the Trump administration. And actually, I was in leadership sitting right on the House floor during January 6th. These were not tourists. These were killers who were coming to kill and to destroy our democracy and to thwart the peaceful transfer of power. Now, having said that, I'm home and I'm glad to be here, but I know their playbook. And I'm honored to be the mayor of a city which prides itself on being a sanctuary city. We support our immigrants. And our police, and I think our police chief is here, Chief Beard, has said over and over and over again, our police do not cooperate with ICE, and Border Patrol, of course, and ICE. You see, Border Patrol has guns and was responsible for the last murder. And what we have to do is make sure, one, that and I'm part of the fundraising effort to make sure that our immigrant community is taken care of. Because so many of our children, so many of our immigrant families are afraid to go to the doctor, the grocery store, to shop, and the economic downturn is tremendous. So we have to support our immigrant community. We have our safety plan because Mayor Lurie and I know that we are on their watch list. And in fact, we are supportive and encourage peaceful protest. But I know their playbook is to make sure that they have an opening and that there's a gap and a void to bring in their military to militarize and occupy our cities. They want to have a military force in the cities. They want to address and enact the Insurrection Act. They want to invoke that. And we're not going to let that happen. But we can't take the bait, as I say. And so peacefully protesting, making sure we have areas in our city, ice-free zones. I want to thank our supervisor, Nikki Bass, and the Board of Supervisors for making sure that we have safe spaces. And also, our city, we have a website that provides the information, and we go into the community, into immigrant communities, to let our immigrant community know that the city staff, we are here to support them, documented or not. They do not need to fear our city, and we have to work on all fronts and let this administration know that we're resisting. At the same time, we're governing. At the same time, we're looking out for our immigrant community. At the same time, we're doing the work as the city to provide the core services and what our city needs.
Thank you. And Mayor Lurie, yes. Mayor Lurie, it's well known that President Trump intended to send these troops that are on the streets of Minneapolis to the Bay Area. And you actually made a phone call that helped keep that from happening. From your involvement there, do you have any idea of if we're still on the list, if that got us off the list, if that just moved us down the list? And what do you understand about any plans for the Bay Area?
Well, first, you know, you can't be American or you can't be human without feeling a sense of just absolute devastation and this feeling of fear and anger at what's happening in Minnesota. And my heart goes out to that city. And we all, I appreciate you starting us off this way, because we're all Americans here, and this is not American. Second, I want to echo some of the things that Mayor Lee said, which is that we have a major event coming to our region with Super Bowl 60, and I want everybody to know very clearly that we are going to have more local law enforcement out on the streets, and they are there to keep you safe. They are there to keep our policies in place, which is that we do not ask for anything having to do with your immigration status. We want you to call 911. We want you to go to the hospital. We want you to feel safe going to schools. And our DA, our police chief, our city attorney, we are all in lockstep in making sure that our policies stay in place, and they will as long as I am mayor. And I want to also echo that, like, we just had one of the lowest crime rates in our city's history. And those policies keep us safe, and they will continue to do so. I don't know anything more from the federal administration, but we are always on guard, on watch. But I want everybody to know our police, our sheriff's deputies are there to keep you safe, and absolutely you should protest, you should demonstrate, and we ask that you do it peacefully every time.
Thank you. Now, we do have to discuss the economy. It's why we're here. We're here to talk about the economy of the Bay Area in 2026. And I want to start that conversation the same way I probably would have started it a decade ago, and that's with housing, right? During the mobile boom, when all of these people wanted to come here and work in tech and do all these things, we didn't have space for them. We saw legacy people in the Bay Area be forced out of their homes. We just did not have the housing for them to live in. And Oakland Mayor Lee did meet that challenge and built 10,000 units of housing over the past decade. But just as that housing began to deliver, we saw demand fall. So how do we drive that demand higher and get people into Oakland, into these housing units we built?
Well, here in Oakland, and I'm very proud of our city in terms of the construction of new housing, affordable housing. We are about 22% of Alameda County, and yet we've actually built over 45 to 50% of the new housing here in Oakland as a part of Alameda County. So we can thank our developers, our realtors, our city staff for that. Secondly, though, the cost of living is still very high here in Oakland, and we have to recognize that some of the rents and the wage gap is pretty broad and pretty wide. We have here the need and are doing the work to make sure that the 58% of Alameda County, our unsheltered population, we have 58% of people living on the streets in Oakland, and we're, again, 22% of Alameda County. So that has to be factored into our overall housing strategy, is how do we make sure that we have a strategy that's for affordable housing, market rate housing, low-income housing, extremely low-income housing, and housing that speaks to transitional housing, shelters, the whole 9 yards. So what are we doing? We're making sure that we're part of our HAP money with the state, which Mayor Lurie and I are working on to ensure that those investments continue, because we rely on state funding for affordable housing strategies and investments. Also Measure W with the county. Again, I have to go to the spectrum of housing. Our unsheltered population, again, we have now finally a tax measure that we'll be able to get hundreds of millions of dollars from the county to begin to build housing, shelters, transitional housing, permanent housing for unsheltered people, our neighbors who live on the street. And we can't forget, and I have to remind you that in this overall strategy here in Oakland, over 70% of those living on the street are black. And so we have a racial inequity that we must factor in terms of our overall housing strategy. We have some unbelievably wonderful, amazing nonprofits where the nonprofits have built affordable housing all over the city and continue to do so. We were able to make sure that the opportunity zones have now a formula that allows for more tax credits in areas that had not been allowed because we couldn't meet the test of the formula, but we went to Sacramento, got that changed. And so we have to work policy as well as funding priorities, and that's what we're doing here in Oakland, but we need a lot more, and we need a lot more land to build more affordable housing and market rate housing and mixed them. Finally, I'll just say transit villages. We need to have more housing. I'm a member of the MTC, Metropolitan Transportation Commission, and we're looking at how we can build more housing at transit centers. And Fruitvale Transit Village is an example. We were able to bring in millions from the federal government and state, and that's a good example of new ways of building housing that address our environment, good paying jobs, and the need for more housing.
Yeah, and I know we're looking at West Oakland BART, Mandela Station. There's stuff still happening there, so we're still working there. Mayor Lurie, you've made rezoning one of your big central parts of your first year in office. So far, we're looking at trying to build more than 36,000 housing units over the next 20 years, and that was the purpose of your rezoning effort. But the city controller's office says even under the most optimistic scenario, we're probably only getting half of that. How do you kind of fix that delta? How do you try to make sure that we actually do get to that number we're trying to get to?
Well, first, yes, family zoning took a lot of energy in our first year. Really want to applaud the Board of Supervisors that passed it with 7 votes, and I know a couple others wanted to vote for it as well. We actually took a lot of amendments from just about every supervisor. So we really worked with community so that we would build housing the San Francisco way and not have Sacramento come in and take over. And so really proud of the effort that we made there. Yes, some reports say one thing. The most important report was in Sacramento. They said we met their zoning requirements or their building requirements. But the zoning is just one part of it. Simply put, we also need macroeconomic factors to come into play. The cost of construction, the cost of labor is still very high. Interest rates are high. Those look like they might be coming down a little bit. And we need people to believe in San Francisco again, and that's happening. We're seeing developers come back downtown talking about building housing along Market Street. People want to build in our neighborhoods again. It's, we just heard your report, your economic report. Growth is coming back to our city. It is happening. And when people start seeing the vibe shift and seeing the optimism and seeing retailers coming back, then people will start wanting to build. Rents are going up. That's going to also mean that people know, hey, this will pencil. So really proud of the family zoning work. When you have people, who want to take you back in time and don't want any housing built, suing you, and then you got other people that say you're not doing enough suing you, I think we're in a good place.
Jeremy, yeah, I do have to mention permitting because I know here in Oakland we have had issues around permitting, but guaranteed we're on the move. We're streamlining our permitting process. We're open 5 days a week until at least 4:30, 5 o'clock in the afternoon. I know there's still challenges, but just know that it's all hands on deck and we have streamlined many of the permitting processes for specific permits, but we're doing more. And I want you all to know we have someone, a new assistant city manager, who is making sure that all of the procedures and processes are in place to expedite permitting processes.
Yeah, Mayor Lee, thank you for bringing that up. We are doing the same in our city. We're going to make this much more effective, much more efficient. It's not just about zoning, it's also about the permitting process, making that easier. It's also about finding funds for affordable housing because we have to get that affordable housing built, which is part of our family zoning plan. So it's, as you just said, an all hands on deck approach. We have to pull every lever that we can.
Yeah, and with permitting, there are mega projects, especially in San Francisco, that have been permitted and are still stalled. How do we energize that and get that going?
I think what you're already seeing it downtown. We've had a couple projects just on Friday. The Chronicle reported on a major plot that had been developed, had been stalled. New people came in and are restarting that, and we're really excited about that. There's projects now on tap for 2 towers that could either equal Salesforce or be taller than Salesforce. So confidence is coming back to San Francisco.
Yeah, we'd love to get that story next time instead of the Chronicle, just so y'all know. And Mayor Lee, moving more to commercial real estate, how do we get some companies into some of these vacant office buildings around downtown Oakland? How do we encourage companies to come here as well? And what type of companies are we looking for that might look different than San Francisco in terms of maybe not going for the big tech companies, but what can we try to get to the jobs that we need to bring into Oakland?
Sure, let me just say, I'm on the phone constantly talking to companies who are looking at Oakland, trying to make sure they understand what the dynamics are in terms of the resetting of much of the infrastructure of our city. But one company, for example, Yerba Madre, the tea company, they decided to move their headquarters from Sonoma to downtown Oakland. They've signed a lease here. Yeah, thank you very much. We're working very closely with them. We have Services West, who had been in Oakland, moved to Hayward, and now back in Oakland. I was there at their kickoff a couple of weeks ago. More jobs here in Oakland. They're moved back to East Oakland. And so it's difficult because countries are looking at a variety of aspects, but they're looking to Oakland now. And in fact, we're working now to make sure that we bring, in addition to businesses, conventions, philanthropy, and other investments into Oakland. We're working very hard now to make sure that businesses know that if they come to Oakland, we have a ballot measure that's coming up for tax measures, tax relief. If businesses decide to site in Oakland with our small business, I want to thank our council members, Unger, Wong, Ramachandran, who are here, and other members for making sure that we had that $3 million, which is going to the ballot to provide for $1 million companies that gross sales are $1 million and under. They get a tax holiday for a year. And so small businesses, 70% here in Oakland are small businesses. Of the jobs are created through small businesses, but we want the larger companies to come too. Our rates, the rental rates, of course, have stabilized somewhat, but we still are a good investment for businesses in terms of rents. And so we have, and public safety, that's key. We work to make sure that our crime rates come down. We still have challenges like every city, but they are coming down. The data is there that shows that, and all hands on deck. And many of the companies have told me they want to make sure that the foundation is such that their employees feel safe, that they have reasonable rents, that we have a workforce that they can, which we do, we have, and yes, we have a wonderful workforce here in Oakland, but we still have a cost of living that is a bit high for wages. And so it's balancing all of these that companies are looking at, but we have several that are looking at coming to Oakland. A couple of banks I've talked with, they'll be siting here in Oakland very shortly. We'll make the announcement on banks because we have some parts of Oakland which are under-resourced with no financial institutions. So commercial lending is extremely important, and we're working on the financial services front also. So we have a lot of strategies in place, all hands on deck, because we want companies to know we're open for business. And we do have the environment now that's very conducive, challenging, conducive, but we're on the move and we're moving forward.
And Mayor Lurie, we did see offices getting picked up in San Francisco last year. We saw a lot of AI companies taking up space. But again, as we saw in these presentations, jobs declined. We especially saw 4,500 information jobs disappear. And that's a lot of tech jobs. And that's large companies laying off huge numbers of employees that AI just can't catch up to just now. Do you think that solves itself in the year ahead and we see these AI companies start to catch up and maybe see some of the layoffs start to go back? How do you affect that at all?
Well, first, I'm an optimist on this. As the Bay Area Council economist just said, like, usually things start picking up. But for me, I'm always going to believe in San Francisco. These companies, Anthropic, OpenAI, they are adding staff. They are actually adding office space. We have announcements coming ahead of that. But I also want to remind people, San Francisco, it's not just about tech. It's not just about AI. It's also about tourism. Tourism's our #1 industry. And that starts with public safety, our clean streets. We do those. We do the basics. We start winning conferences back. We start winning companies back, then we start getting housing being built. Our job at City Hall, my job as mayor, is to create the conditions so that not only jobs come back, but tourism comes back, and with it, that is jobs. So we got Super Bowl, we got World Cup that we're all going to be participating in together, but we have 36 conventions coming this year, 700,000 room nights to San Francisco, much higher than last year. And 2027 is actually even looking stronger. The JP Morgan Healthcare Conference, which we were in danger of losing last year, we saved it last year, and we put on a great show, and they re-upped for 3 more years just last week. So we just have to keep feeding. I know we're talking about companies, but for us in San Francisco, we also have to get back to tourism. And I will give you all one stat. The holiday travel period through SFO was, there you are, from a couple days before Christmas to January 4th, 1.3 million travelers. It was the highest travel period in SFO's history. So we are coming back. It's happening. And that's just good news all the way around.
Yeah, Jeremy, I can't let Mayor Lurie get away with the Super Bowl comment, but Oakland is the official city for the Super Bowl.
I said we.
NFL has designated Oakland as its official watch party city. Excuse me, we are doing this together.
We are doing it together.
Also, we have, I wanted to just cite and say thank you to Senator Jesse Aragon, because we were able to work with Jesse in Sacramento, where now we have a whole strategy around Jack London Square, where, initially the only businesses which could site in Jack London Square would be maritime-related businesses. Now, it's opened up to any type of industry or businesses which want to lease space or rent space at Jack London Square. And that's a big deal. We can have nail shops, barber shops, beauty shops, whatever, thanks to that policy change that we had to work on with Senator Aragon, who did a phenomenal job in getting that signed into law.
Yeah, I would say one of the most positive things I saw from Jeff's presentation especially was the gain in hospitality and leisure jobs. That we did see that come back last year, and we are definitely going to see a big surge this year with the Super Bowl here, with the World Cup here. Is there a way to use that to make sure that this is not a sugar high? Right, that we can actually grow on that in 27 instead of seeing this rush of people in here this year for these things and then a dip in that industry in 2027. How do we build on this and continue to grow?
I think we pull off successful events, and this region, we are built for this. San Francisco is built for putting on big events, and we are excited. There are many other sporting events that are looking at San Francisco, whether you're talking about Women's World Cup, whether, we have a Bay Area host committee now that is out trying to win games, and there hopefully is good news coming, but you pull off a good Super Bowl, you pull off good World Cup, like, the momentum is there, and we'll continue to go out and win, just like we're winning conferences back. And so I just think the momentum is there, and we just got to lean into it.
Yeah, Mayor Lurie is talking about the we, which is regional strength, and that's very important, that you all know we work as a region on a variety of issues, regional issues around crime, regional issues around gun violence. We have a port that we work together on in terms of our regional strength with regard to creating a green job hub at the Port of Oakland. We're working now with Bloomberg and other investments to make sure that the port continues to be an economic engine in the region, which of course is useful and helpful for our region, including San Francisco and all of our cities in the region. So I think regional strength, we talk about regional strength, we talk about inclusive economic growth and shared prosperity. And that's kind of the framework we're looking at our economic development and our job creation and all of the economic indices that we're monitoring to make sure we meet the goals of each.
I think that's a really strong question there, is how you two do work together. Right, Mayor Lee, this is your first time here with Mayor Lurie, who spoke with us last year. How do you two work together? How often do you talk? And where are some areas that you can combine your efforts to really improve the economy of the Bay Area in 2026?
Well, for starters, go on, Dan, and I'll.
Well, I mean, we met our three police chiefs, Mayor Matt Mahan, Mayor Lee, and our three police chiefs met together at City Hall in San Francisco just a couple months ago. How do we support each other, work together to drive down crime and to keep our community safe, to keep our immigrant community safe, keep our LGBTQ plus community safe? Like, how do we work together during these, wild times? Mayor Lee took I think BART in on Friday to talk about our regional transit measure, where we have to go save BART. We have to make sure that we save Muni. And so we're working together on that. I did get a little, I don't leave San Francisco very often, so coming over the bridge this morning I got a little, but it's good to be next to you, Mayor.
Thank you for coming to the sunny side of the bay. Okay.
It's colder here, though. It's colder. But we're in constant communication, as we are with Mayor Mahan, and so it's been a good partnership in this first year for me.
In addition to what Mayor Lurie said, we all are working together, myself and Mayor Lurie and Mayor Mahan, on the fund for our immigrants. We have a regional immigration fund that all of us are raising money for. We work together, as he said, on the regional transportation measure. But also, when you look at housing, that's a regional issue. We work together. We're part of the Big City Mayors organization, and we champion each other's policy priorities for Sacramento and Washington, D.C. And we, especially during highly intense emergency moments, we're in touch with each other. He tells me what he's hearing. I'm letting him know what I'm hearing from D.C. Actually, my very good friend is the Attorney General in Minnesota. We were in touch with him, and I share information. My goddaughter lives in Minneapolis, and so some of us have connections in different parts of the country where we share information based on what we know from the inside or who our contacts are, and it really helps a lot. And when he calls or when I call, we get together and try to figure out a joint pathway forward. And also, the other part of this, though, Mayor Lurie, is a lot of my residents and my constituents here in Oakland, we're going through a charter review process right now, don't understand and believe that San Francisco is San Francisco City and County, big government, right? Regional government, and we're the city of Oakland and Alameda County. And so we have to educate people with regard to comparing apples with apples and oranges with oranges all the time, because somebody, well, how come your budget is not 16 billion or more? So, well, that's San Francisco City and County together as one entity.
I'm gonna just leave it.
You bring up educating people, and that is one thing I think I've noticed that is a trend between both cities, is education as an industry and trying to bring education into our city centers. We have Samuel Merritt University opening up right over here at City Center, trying to bring life back to Oakland City Center. We have Vanderbilt that has agreed to come to San Francisco.
And Oakland, they're having,
and
Oakland.
Where CCA is, yeah, although we don't know what they're going to do with that space yet. But they got the space. They got the space
now.
How important is education in bringing those people downtown? How does that affect the livelihood of the inner core of our cities?
Well, on Vanderbilt, we're very excited about it. We had been talking about bringing a university to San Francisco for a few years. We started conversations with multiple universities about a year ago when we came into office, and Vanderbilt just really moved quickly. We're really excited about them coming to San Francisco. We showed them many locations, and they ended up in the spot that they're ending up. 1,000 undergraduate students, hundreds of faculty members, and they're going to start in the fall of 2027. So that's a really exciting moment, and we continue to be in conversation with other universities, other really internationally known universities. We're in talks with some HBCUs. So we continue to want to drive more universities to San Francisco, to our downtown core. I want to just take a moment also because, I have said from day one that our arts, our culture, our creative class is always at the center of what we are leaning in on. It's always what has driven San Francisco. It's gotten us through downtimes, and I believe that's going to happen again. We just had SF Art Week, and we had the announcement of the closure of CCA, and it's a huge loss for our city. And we are going to try to lift up our arts community. We just had a phenomenal week in San Francisco when it comes to the Art Week that I was talking about, but I just want to put that in perspective. Vanderbilt, amazing news. CCA, news that was not, it was crushing for many of us who love our arts community, and we're going to find a path forward.
And Mayor Lee, there's also Oakland School for the Arts that just bought its building over on Telegraph. So we do have that building and bringing people downtown. And with Samuel Merritt, it seems like education is a big part of downtown.
Big part of this, and also we're excited about Vanderbilt. Also, not only because they're in San Francisco, but they'll be here in Oakland, and we'll have. So I'm thankful for, again, regional kind of work together, but also we're working very hard to bring a HBCU, a historically black college and university, here to downtown Oakland, and that is on track, but it's a lot involved that we're working on, but just know that that is a part of our inclusive economic growth. It's part of our making sure there's shared prosperity and regional strength with first time ever a historically black college and university here in Northern California. So we're working on that. That's future plans, but that's in process. But also with Samuel Merritt, this is a major deal. A lot of cities, aside from San Francisco, have talked about it but haven't done it. San Francisco has, Oakland has. We have the students coming, 2,500, but also the faculty and the friends of the students. And this is going to make for a major downtown activation zone in some respects, with our businesses able to support and the students able to support our businesses, but it's an economic force multiplier. We were able to bring in federal money when I was in Congress for Samuel Merritt, and now working with Congresswoman Latifah Simon, we have some more announcements that are going to be made with regards to federal money that's coming, even though it's drying up, as you know. But finally, I'll just say, just as San Francisco is moving forward with the cultural and arts community, we were able to finally, thanks to our city council members, fund the cultural affairs manager here within the city of Oakland. We know that our artists, aside from being the heart and soul of Oakland and providing the type of energy and clarity of who we are and our values and their artistic genius, they're a force multiplier. Our arts community create good paying jobs and create economic activity. And so I want to see here in Oakland art and culture infused into every single department that we have. And finally, I'll just close by saying in Paris, for example, at every metro station, there are artists, music, artists all over the place. So integrating and intersecting arts and culture into a city structure throughout the city is something that I have as a goal.
Can I, on Saturday night, and I think, you know, if you're interested in retail spaces and you all are business-minded, Barney's in San Francisco, downtown in Union Square, has sat empty, I think, for 5 or 6 years. On Saturday night, I stopped by an art opening. This woman has taken over 3 floors and has turned it into a gallery. And there was 400 people occupying a space that has sat empty for 5 or 6 years. And I was talking to some of the artists, and we talk about artists and our creative class breathing new life into our downtown core, into our city. And that's exactly what I experienced on Saturday night, a very, you know, dark night for our country, but you could go to a space where artists were making, you know, something old come alive again, and it was a beautiful moment downtown for our city.
And I talked to a few people about, you know, not only what I should talk about here, but what might we be talking about next year at this event. A lot of people brought up the billionaires tax, which might end up on the ballot. What do y'all think about the concept of a wealth tax to try to drive more tax revenue in the state of California, and this billionaires tax specifically that could be on our ballot in November?
Well, I think first, I haven't actually read this ballot measure yet, but I do believe we have to have more tax equity and tax reform here in the state, because I do know here in just Oakland, for example, poverty rates have increased. We have, and we talked a little bit about that. It directly relates to our economics. The poverty rates in Oakland have increased to, I think, 14 to 16%, and they're rising. And so there's some inequities in this country that have to be addressed through a variety of measures. And so we have to have tax equity, and we have to look at how to achieve that where everybody wins.
Let me start by saying everybody should pay their fair share. But when you have every Democratic gubernatorial candidate, when you have the Democratic mayor of your state saying this will drive revenue away from us, at a time when San Francisco, I'll speak for San Francisco, we have $1 billion deficit, a lot in part to the federal cuts that are coming around healthcare and food access, and it's just going to be devastating. The idea that we would drive revenue out of our state when, you know, 49 other states don't have it, so I think this is the wrong measure. But we should absolutely look at other you know, like everybody should be paying their fair share, but if people can up and flee, you know, I'd rather see something done at the national level.
Great. Well, I'm now going to put it to y'all. You know, I really hope you come back next year and we can do this again in San Francisco on your home turf, Mayor Lurie. What will we be talking about at this event next year that we didn't talk about here? And what do you hope to be talking about at this event next year that we did not really get to here?
I hope we're talking about how do you maintain this momentum, this economic recovery, because I think what was reported on before we came on stage was we're at a fragile moment. I want desperately to see our business community and our labor community working together. at a time where we have so many outside forces trying to drive us apart. I'm pleading, and I see labor in this room, and I see business leaders in this room. I see people who care so deeply about San Francisco and Oakland and this region. We have bigger challenges outside. And if we are caught fighting each other at the ballot in June or the ballot in November, we're losing our focus on what we really need to be doing is showing that San Francisco, that Oakland can be role models for the country during this really volatile time. And I'm asking everybody to come together in support of our fragile economic moment. And help lift us all up instead of fighting each other. We love to tear at each other. It's like sport in San Francisco, and I'm really hoping we can come together, especially during these really challenging times, and focus on who our real opponent is, and it shouldn't be each other. So I'm hoping a year from now we're talking about how we came together as a region and we took off as a region.
Well, this time next year, I hope that here in Oakland, we've had a fairly strong business and labor partnership, and I hope we continue with that. Labor and the business community came together, passed Measure NN, with our Chamber of Commerce and local small businesses, as well as our labor unions, which made sure that we had a path to public safety, 700 police officers, complete overall strategy, ceasefire, Department of Violence Prevention. I hope next year we can show that the crime rates are still ticking down. Secondly, I hope that we have here in Oakland cleaner streets. This is all hands on deck. You all know illegal dumping in Oakland is a big issue, and we're determined, and I mean determined, to get this trash off the streets. And so I hope this time next year you can say the city looks cleaner, because we have started a variety of initiatives, all hands on deck, with our partners in the community as well as our city workers working overtime to clean up these streets. So that's the second hopefully goal that we will achieve. Thirdly, and again, this speaks to the economic vitality of this city and the creation of more housing. We established our Department of Homelessness Solutions. I hope by then that we will have the money that we need to help our unsheltered populations begin to find shelter and housing and jobs, because the key predictor for people remaining unsheltered is prevention, so they have good paying jobs to be able to pay rent. But secondly, if they're living on the streets, hire them to help clean up the trash and help, and this has been proven, and next year I want to see if we could prove this, that with the economic incentive of helping people get a job, with the services, with the case management, that we can help reduce the unsheltered population. And this is key. Some people say, what does that have to do with economics or economic vitality? Well, it has a lot to do with the stability of the city and with the human values that we all have to not want to see people living on the streets in squalor. And so I'm hoping this time next year we'll see much more movement toward housing people and employing people and helping to make sure people have access to decent, affordable, and safe housing.
Well, thank you both for being here today. I feel like a smarter, more well-informed citizen ready to go into this fragile economy of 2026 from having hearing y'all today. Please, everybody, give these mayors a big round of applause.
Thank you.